Moat Row was cut in an area known as Home Park. Home means low-lying land on a floodplain. It was a deer park located to the south of the old manor house and formed part of the domain of the lords of the Birmingham Manor. Little Park, northeast of the manor house, and the Dead Wolves, now Dudley Street, were also part of the lord's domain. In 1720, the wealthy Bishop Thomas Sherlock bought the freehold of the lord's domain from the Mauer family. They had owned the lordship of the Birmingham Manor since 1555. As a landowner, Bishop Sherlock objected to granting building leases. He claimed that developing the land would diminish its value by the time his heirs inherited it. He shared the same mindset as the Birmingham lords. When the Birminghams held the manor, they never alienated the domain land. They instead leased portions of it for cultivation. In keeping with tradition, Thomas Sherlock only rented out small gardens, pastures and meadows to farmers. But everything changed when this man entered the picture. This is Sir Thomas Gooch, 3rd Baronet. He was Bishop Sherlock's nephew and beneficiary. In 1764, following the Dean's death, Sir Thomas inherited his uncle's estate, which included the Lord's domain. If Bishop Sherlock believed his land was too valuable to alienate, Sir Thomas Gooch knew his recent acquisition was too valuable not to be exploited. In 1766, he purchased an Act of Parliament to overturn his uncle's will and enable himself and his descendants to develop the old lord's domain. And to prevent his uncle from turning in his grave, Sir Thomas named a couple of streets after him. Those streets are Sherlock Street East, Dean Street, Upper Dean Street, and Bishop Street. Moat Row was one of the first roads built under Sir Thomas Gooch. It first appeared in newspapers as early as 1772. This plan of Birmingham, surveyed in 1778 by Thomas Hanson, shows the newly developed Moat Row opposite the Moat House. Dating back to 1886, this photo shows the original Moat Row. The Farmers' Arms Inn occupied a central position among the Georgian cottages. If inns were places to meet, eat, and sleep, they also offered hospitality for travelers, and travelers meant trade for the town. Francis' mill workers and later Smithfield market traders probably went to the Farmers' Arms Inn for a pint of ale or stout after a long day of work. The inn's rebuilding took place in about 1886 as part of Moat Row's first redevelopment. You can see the rebuilt Farmers' Arms Inn in this photo of Moat Row, dated April 1901. This photo of Moat Row, dated 1888, is very interesting. In one scene, you have the old and the new means of transportation. Falcon Steam Tram number 45 on Service S to Sparkbrook embodies modernity. It first appeared on the roads in about 1885 or 1886. The tram is imposing and towers over the horse-drawn cart on the right of coal merchant Mrs. Harvey. The tram is moving forward, and forward has been Birmingham's motto since its incorporation as a municipal borough in 1838. In 1888, the horse-drawn cart of Mrs. Harvey was inexorably trundling towards the past. The shops in the background provide insight into the businesses that were in demand in late 19th century Birmingham. A coffee shop was at number 10 Moat Row, and its speciality was hot meat pies. It was more than likely the place the ladies at the rag market would gather for a coffee break or to spill the tea. Mr. Clayworth's veterinary dispensary was at number 9 Moat Row, next door to the coffee shop. The business must have been thriving because on the opposite side of the road was the Smithfield open cattle market. With hundreds of animals packed like sardines, injuries were unfortunately commonplace. The dispensary was more than likely closed in about 1902 when the cattle market was transferred to Montague Street. This 1970 photo shows the Moat Row housing redevelopment which took place in the late 1880s. The Farmers' Arms Inn, once a pub, became the premises of the Irish Welfare and Information Centre. The Irish Welfare and Information Centre was founded on the 19th of June 1957 in a single room in the old Farmers Arms Inn. The centre included welfare offices and the Irish shop. It provided newly arrived Irish immigrants with housing, financial support, advice and jobs. This photo, dated August 1969, shows the interior of the Irish Welfare and Information Centre. The woman pictured on the left is Mrs. Kathleen Wasson, and she's holding her 6-month-old daughter. Mrs. Wasson fled the Belfast riots with her husband and 5 children. The Irish Welfare Centre was run by an association called Oblates of Mary Immaculate. It was funded through donations and member subscriptions of 1 shilling a week. In 1957, when the centre was first opened, there were 80,000 Irish people in the city. Many came to Birmingham for better job opportunities, and the centre was an economic and social lifeline. Besides assisting Irish immigrants with daily necessities, the Irish Welfare and Information Centre offered Irish language classes and dances. Unfortunately, it was closed at the end of 1971 to make way for the City Council's £15 million wholesale markets complex. The Irish Centre reopened on the 18th of April 1974 in an old school building on Chadwell Street. In 2010, it merged with the Birmingham Irish Community Forum and was renamed the Birmingham Irish Association. Their headquarters are located on Alcester Street, Derryton. This is a 1968 photo of Harrison's Cafe at number 15, Moat Row. It was a go-to destination for the Smithfield market attendants in need of refreshment.
It's just about 5:25 in the morning. I'm standing here now in a cafe in Birmingham Market. There are in fact 3 markets in Birmingham: the fish market, the meat market, and the fresh fruit and vegetable market. Okay, so it's early in the morning, and one of the traditions of the Birmingham Market is that you come into this cafe and you get your toast and your jar of tea before you actually go just over the road over there to do your business. It's quite a big business too. Something like £60 million worth of trade is done here every year. Now this time of the morning it's quite a sort of jolly atmosphere. Everyone's just come in. They started to arrive at about 4:30 this morning. And by 10 o'clock this morning, a lot of hard bargaining will be done. But the role of the Birmingham Market in supplying the Midlands with their fresh fruit, their veg and their meat and their fish is pretty considerable. Well, we're going to take a trip around the market this morning and have a look at some of the market characters to find out just the way they do it. I strongly suspect that we're going to see quite a lot of hard bargaining going on. Already, there's some going on in this cafe now. There's quite a lot of money changing hands one way or the other, not in terms of actual cash, but just in terms of trading going on.
Technically, the Drovers Arms is not in Moat Row, but in Bradford Street. But it played such an important role in Smithfield market life that it deserves a mention in this video. The Drovers Arms was an old coaching inn in a converted late 18th century house. In 1879, Coventry horse dealer Joseph Huff faced charges at the Borough Police Court for violating the 1851 Birmingham Improvement Act by selling horses in the yard of the Drovers Arms. The Act stipulated that livestock could only be sold at the Smithfield market. In 1906, Frederick and Alice Green became the Drovers Arms licensees, and for 60 years the Green family ran the pub. Before running the Drovers Arms, Frederick Green was head barman at the Crown Inn in Station Street for 17.5 years. The pub was a popular spot for football fans back in the day because it was conveniently located opposite the train station. Clay pipes were given away at the bar, and every Christmas the best customers received a small bottle of whiskey. Alice Green descended from an innkeeping royalty. Her father, Mr. William Homer, was a licensee of the Brighton Arms in Spring Hill and later of the White Swan in Mosley Street. All of her 12 siblings kept pubs of their own. The Drovers Arms was one of the few pubs that used to open at 3 a.m. in the morning to serve rum, coffee and sandwiches to Smithfield market traders. And it remained open until 11 p.m. so that the barmaids worked 3 shifts and the publican had to make do with about 3 hours sleep. Frederick and Alice Green had 2 children together, Frederick Jr. and Emily. I suspect they were twins, but I don't have confirmation. Mr. Green passed away in 1940 and his wife Alice followed him in 1954 at age 80. Frederick Jr. took over the Drovers Arms upon his mother's passing. After working there for over 40 years, he passed away in 1966 at age 66. The Drovers Arms had the particularity of hosting folk clubs like the Dungeon and the Newton Clubs. The Newton Club would meet at the Drovers Arms every Friday nights. It was run by a committee of resident singers and members. The club specialized in British traditional music, folk dances, plays, and traditional themes. Members would often share odd customs and interesting finds they had unearthed. They were then encouraged to investigate further and document their research in the club's magazine called Garland. The magazine cost 2 shillings and the last issue contained features on Christmas customs, minstrels, the Willey Castle history, and a fascinating extract from the Walmesley Manor Court Rolls of 1280. The readers learned that Hausa de la Laya was fined 12 pence for her daughter's lure white. Lure white was the penalty for loose behavior paid by a girl or her parents. Newton Club organizer Les Ivo made a bar psaltery, a medieval instrument with 24 strings that is played with a bow. He found the description in an old book on medieval music. In 1969, the Drovers Arms and several buildings within the market area received a compulsory purchase order from the Birmingham City Council. Consequently, the pub closed its doors for good in 1973. The Drovers Arms was named after the Welsh drovers. They were rural nomads who moved thousands of cattle and sheep from North Wales to the lusher pastures of England to be fattened up, as the poor soils of Wales and Scotland couldn't provide a healthy diet. Drovers were not only herdsmen, they were also skilled navigators, negotiators, and guards protecting the livestock from thieves and predators. They also had to defend themselves from robbers, as they often carried significant sums of money from livestock sales to farmers. Drovers would use a network of specific pathways to optimize their journey and better connect rural headlands to burgeoning urban centers. The most famous Drovers itinerary was the Chester Road, known in the Middle Ages as the Welsh Road. Drovers would sell their herds of cattle and sheep at markets across the Midlands, London, and southeastern England. On average, they covered 50 miles a day. The cattle were shod with a special iron shoe to suit the cloven hoof. The clatter of the iron-shod shoes was heard from miles away, thus signaling that the drovers were near. Calves born during the journey were transported in sacks slung over the cattle's backs. Drovers would borrow buckets from farmers to hand-milk the cows. They usually gave the milk to the locals. The drovers would stop at taverns such as the Drovers Arms and the Shepherd's Rest for refreshment and lodgings. In the first quarter of the 18th century, a Welsh cross was erected near the junction of the High Street, Bull Street and Dale End. Charles Haworth, the Birmingham Gazette artist, recreated the spirit of Old Birmingham in his 1730-inspired sketch of the Welsh cross. The livestock from Wales were sold here. The place must have been very animated and colourful. The Welsh cross was pulled down in 1803 to widen the street. This photo was taken on the 5th of August 1960 by Phyllis Nicklin and shows the junction of the High Street, Bull Street and Dale End. I placed the Welsh cross where it used to stand. The 2025 picture of the same site shows the drastic change that was implemented in the area in the 1960s. This photo, dated 1895, shows a typical straw-laden farm wagon being weighed on a weighbridge at the Smithfield Open Market, Moat Row. Jamaica Row is visible in the background. The two-story white Georgian building is the weighbridge office of the Weight and Measures Department. It recorded weights and handled administrative tasks. The weighbridge office was demolished in 1902 when the Smithfield vegetable covered market at the back was extended on the site. When Birmingham was a manorial borough, the court leet oversaw the weights and measures used by local businesses. By an act of King Charles II, public marketplaces were required to have a bushel measure at hand for general use. A bronze bushel measure which bears the inscription 1674 Sir Samuel Marrow, Lord of the Manor of Birmingham, was among the treasures exhibited in the balance room of the old Broad Street Weights and Measures Department. In 1878, the government passed a Weights and Measures Act and appointed inspectors to pay visits to various businesses like markets, railway companies, and garages. Their job was to verify the accuracy of trading scales and weights to prevent customer fraud. In the early days, the Weights and Measures Department occupied the old public office on Moore Street before relocating to the Smithfield Market building in St. Martin's Lane. In 1915, the Weights and Measures Department was moved to a purpose-built headquarters on Corporation Street. And again to Broad Street in 1934. Today, the Weights and Measures Department is part of Birmingham City Council's trading standards and it is located in Ashted Lock. In the old days, people used steel yards to weigh loaded wagons. A huge beam was projected from a tall building. 4 chains were attached to the wagon, which was lifted by men at windlasses to enable the steel yard to operate. Weights could be recorded up to 20 tons. Public steel yards were commonly used in hostelries such as this Grade 1 listed pub, the Old Bell and Steel Yard in Woodbridge, Suffolk. An invention designed by a man locked in prison would soon revolutionize the weighing industry. In 1741, English engineer John Wyatt designed the prototype of the weighbridge. He was one of the pioneers in the mechanical production of cotton. Unfortunately, his spinning machine invention, later perfected by Arkwright, failed commercially, and as a result, he was thrown into the Fleet Prison in London, where he remained from June 1742 to October 1743. Upon release from the debtors' prison, Wyatt went to work for Matthew Bolton and James Watt at the Soho manufactory, and there he perfected his weighbridge invention. A weighbridge is a drive-on platform that enables the weighing of hay and coal and other raw materials without removing the load from a vehicle. When Wyatt completed his invention in 1744, it was the first weighbridge ever made in the world. It could weigh loads up to 30 tons and was set up for public use opposite the workhouse in Lichfield Street. Unfortunately, Wyatt's weighbridge was removed in 1851 because it obstructed traffic. When Wyatt's weighbridge proved its worth, the borough authorities of Lichfield, Chester, Liverpool, Gloucester and Hereford were quick to place orders. The weighbridge was Wyatt's most memorable invention. Unfortunately, its present whereabouts are unknown. John Wyatt didn't patent his invention, so he quickly had imitators and competitors. If various improvements were made to Wyatt's weighbridge, it is Avery's that took it to the next level, with a system that recorded the weight electronically. John Wyatt was born in April 1700 in Thick Brum, Weyford, near Lichfield. He married twice. He had no children with his first wife, but with his second wife Marabella, who was buried beside him in St. Philip's Churchyard in 1776, he had 2 sons and 4 daughters. He died in Birmingham on the 29th of November 1766. I looked for John Wyatt's gravestone everywhere in St. Philip's Churchyard. No stone was left unturned, and I can confirm it is not there. It might have been damaged during the war or moved to a different site. Before it became the site of the fish market, Lower Smithfield was home to the Moat House, the ancient seat of the Lords of Birmingham. This plaque was near the entrance to the fish market in Moat Row, and it shows the location of the Moat House. In this photo, dated 1980, you can see the plaque to the right of the fish market central gate. In 1816, the Moat House was demolished and the moat was drained. A year later, the Smithfield Cattle Market opened on the site. In 1881, the cattle market in Lower Smithfield was an open space shared between the livestock market, the fruit and vegetable market, and the rag market. Towards the end of the 19th century, the cattle and horse trades were in decline, unlike the pig and meat trades, which were booming. In response to high demand, the Birmingham Corporation opened a pig market in Montague Street in 1892. 5 years later, they erected a meat market on Bradford Street. Once the pigs were removed, Smithfield had more than enough space to accommodate the cattle and horse markets. Competition from the meat trade led to a decrease in the number of cattle brought to the open market. The Bradford Street slaughterhouse recycled the unsold stock and turned it into meat. But what happened when a cow refused to meet its maker? This is the story of a heifer who escaped the Bradford Street slaughterhouse and caused chaos in the city. The name I chose for her is FU because if she could speak, "fuck you" is what she would have shouted to the meat trader's face. On the 22nd of January 1952, police patrol cars were sent out to help capture a heifer which had knocked down a man when she escaped from the slaughterhouse in Bradford Street Meat Market. FU charged through the market, breaking one of her horns on the wall and knocking down one of the market attendants who attempted to stop her. Fortunately, the man was not injured. Outside in the street, FU scattered pedestrians and dodged traffic as she made off along Sherlock Street with 2 drovers running after her. A police officer who joined in the chase later said,
"The animal went crazy after the loss of her horn and was bleeding badly."
After a chase of half a mile, the two drovers cornered FU on a bomb site in Benacre Street. Dozens of cattle from the market were brought to the site to help FU calm down. FU was then driven back to Bradford Street Meat Market with the rest of the herd like lambs to the slaughter. When Smithfield traders were not chasing cattle, they were chasing customers with a healthy mix of witty banter and self-speech. This is the animated scene that became associated with the rag market. The rag market started in 1881, the same year the Smithfield Wholesale Fruit and Vegetable Market was erected. A handful of women would gather just inside the gates. They brought with them old prams and barrows loaded with second-hand clothes. That's how the market got its name. Soon, the second-hand clothes vendors were joined by stall holders selling china, glass, toys, bric-a-brac, and even exotic items such as cage birds. The rag market was open every Tuesday and Saturday from 1 p.m. Everything was at a giveaway price, and the business was all about bargains. With their warmth and wit, seasoned market traders could ease customers out of their hard-earned cash. The rag market soon became a symbol of family traditions for both traders and customers. Not far from the rag market were farmers and gardeners selling their own produce. In this photo dated the 18th of June 1901, you can see a watercress seller spraying her goods to keep them fresh. The rhubarb sellers were at the open market every Tuesday, Thursday and Saturday. Photos of the old Smithfield open market evoke the sounds of vendors shouting their unbeatable bargains to incredulous customers.
Come on down to Birmingham's rag market. We've got anything for your pets. We've got lingerie for your woman. We've got fancy clothing. We've got lipsticks, and we've got anything you want. We've got it. Come on down to the Birmingham rag market now.
The Smithfield Market Extension was built on the open market between 1902 and 1903. The building was known as the Rag Market and housed both rag market traders and farmers. Lower Smithfield was home to the rag market until Saturday the 17th of August 1957. The market reopened 3 days later in St. Martin's Stall Market, Edgbaston Street, where it has prospered ever since. This photo, taken by Phyllis Nicklin on the 15th of March 1968, shows the Moat Row frontage of the rag market. This imposing building was designed by architects F.B. Osborne and Reading, the same company that designed the first extension to the Smithfield Market. The arched doorway had the date 1903 engraved in it, which was the year the building was completed. A figure of justice holding a sword and scales topped the gable above the archway. She appeared blindfolded, and the fish traders who had moved to the building in July 1958 from Bell Street would jokingly say,
It's her nose that should be covered.
We'll finish this video by analyzing how the Birmingham Corporation and its predecessors, the Street Commissioners, destroyed Moat Row. Moat Row held historical importance as the seat of the ancient lords of the Birmingham Manor. In 1816, the Street Commissioners ordered the demolition of the Moat House, and things went downhill from there. This photo of Moat Row was taken in about 1900 from Alfred Woodward's shop in Moat Lane. It shows everything I discussed in this video: the open market, the weighbridge office, the rag market, and the rebuilt cottages in Moat Row. This is what the site looks like in 2025. Ironically, Smithfield is once again an open ground. This photo of the open market, dated 1881, was taken from Jamaica Row. The rag market is visible in the distance at the junction of Moat Lane and Moat Row. Behind the rag market was Reed's coffee shop. It might have been a popular spot for housewives to unwind after a shopping session at the open market. Next to Reed's Coffee House was Alfred Woodward's warehouse, producing card covers and coal bags. This store was useful to the market traders who had to weigh their raw materials on the weighbridge opposite. In the foreground, opposite the horse-drawn wagon, are farmers and semi-wholesalers selling their produce. Falcon Steam Tram number 51 on Service C to Small Heath is visible to the right of the open market. At the junction of Bradford Street and Moat Row is the Birmingham Arms, a splendid and richly decorated Victorian pub. This 1939 photo shows the same site. On the extreme left is the 1903 extension to the Smithfield covered market that saw the loss of the open ground. On the right-hand side, the Birmingham Arms has had a haircut. The Victorian dome and gables have disappeared. This 1971 photo shows the rapid decline of Moat Row. Reed's Coffee House and Alfred Woodward's store are gone. The buildings were sacrificed to make way for the Moat Lane widening scheme, which took place in the early 1950s. The Birmingham Corporation had planned the scheme as early as 1918. Smithfield House, the imposing tower block in the distance, is located almost on the same spot where Reed's Coffee House and Alfred Woodward's store once stood. It was opened in September 1957 as a combined office and warehouse for William Daniel & Sons fruit and vegetable wholesalers. For a long time, Smithfield House was the tallest building in Digbeth, but it has recently been eclipsed by the 30-story tall Biorma Quarter Tower, which is under construction at the junction of Digbeth High Street and Park Street. In 1971, the rag market traders and the market gardeners were no longer in Lower Smithfield. They had moved to St. Martin's Stall Market, Edgbaston Street, in 1957. In 1958, Lower Smithfield became home to the fish traders who moved there from Bell Street as the inner ring road was taking shape. This photo was taken in February 1974. The Drovers Arms and the Birmingham Arms are gone, as you can see. The Birmingham City Council demolished them that same month to start the construction of the new fruit and vegetable market. The Birmingham city planners would unexpectedly demolish the fish market on the extreme left 2 months later in April 1974, to the dismay of local conservationists who had done absolutely everything in their power to save it. In Jamaica Row, past and present, I talk about the shady tactics the Birmingham City Council used to get rid of it. The old Smithfield vegetable market adjoining the fish market was demolished in 1975. During excavation of the site, sandstone remains believed to be those of the 13th century manor house were unearthed. They were part of the moat revetment wall. Archaeologist Lorna Watts, pictured in the foreground, described the medieval sandstone foundations as being in a pristine condition, but she couldn't explain why. Unfortunately, between the old Smithfield building being pulled down and the new market being developed on the site, archaeologists were not given enough time to dig deeper into the moat house mystery. According to the city council, holding up developers would have cost the city too much money. Birmingham Museum's Department of Archaeology did an exhibition of what they had unearthed entitled Birmingham Below the Ground. The moat and the revetment wall still survive under the Smithfield site. Further excavations will be required before the new Smithfield redevelopment scheme takes shape. In 1975, the Moat Lane car park was built on the site of the old moat house. And to add insult to injury, the hideous office block adjoining the car park was named Manor House. Moat Lane car park was originally built to provide some relief to Birmingham's parking problem, but soon it provided another form of relief, i.e. a way out for people who wish to end their lives. On the 23rd of October 1985, 59-year-old Joseph Cartwright leapt to his death from the multi-story Moat Lane car park. He was known to be frightened of heights and usually parked his vehicle in an underground car park. But on that fatal day, he drove his car to the second floor of the Moat Lane car park and jumped off the parapet. The police found his false teeth, glasses and watch neatly placed on the front seat of the car. According to his wife Gwendoline, Mr. Cartwright, who was an accountant, became depressed when he was unexpectedly made redundant about a month prior to his death. The Moat Lane car park and the adjoining Manor House were demolished in the summer of 2021 when the Clean Air Zone was introduced to tackle air pollution. Demolition of the old wholesale markets precinct took place in 2018. It only stood for 42 years on the old Smithfield site. To address Birmingham's housing shortage, skyscraper apartment blocks are scheduled for construction in Smithfield. Phase 1 of the scheme will take shape in 2026, and the project is expected to be completed in 2035.